All right, what's up?
Hello.
Welcome back to Holy Fire after
Years.
a few years. Yeah.
Whoa, 2.
Is it?
I just found out I was pregnant with Sammy, I think around the time the last time we made it.
You're right.
Here I am pregnant with the 4th one. Is that just the thing?
Yeah.
I just realized that.
I've thought about I was actually just going through the older
That's
stuff,
funny.
and it's such a different I feel like it's such a different vibe though.
Oh my gosh.
'Cause,
I'm sorry, I'm still kind of stuck on that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Cuz what I'm trying to do is literally just this, we'll just talk and yeah, so I think right now I want to just talk about why, cuz I went back and forth to be honest if I want to keep the name Holy Fire or not,
Yeah.
because on one side Holy Fire sounds like it might not make sense going in the direction that I want to go, which is more conversational, because when we first picked that name, it was like
We had to stick to biblical topics, biblical advice.
yeah.
And now it's just going to be more like, we'll talk, but it's not 100% like all talk about biblical stuff.
Well, I think what I mean is because it is going to be biblical, but it's different because see, before we kind of had, I think the reason why it didn't work and it felt like a lot is because we kind of forced this idea or this style of typical YouTube videos where we just teach people as if we're some type of authority, and I feel like that got difficult to deal with having a set and having to come up with the plan and but as far as this, I want it to be, I mean, God is all over our life, so it's definitely still biblical, but it's more of a conversation. I want to walk people through what we've gone through,
Yeah.
and show, basically boast in the Lord. Just show how awesome he's been and show how he's brought us through things and what he's taught us in the hard times. And I mean, that's really where it is. It's the difficult things that bring a new thing. Keep saying things.
Things.
But that's also why I feel like there's a deeper meaning to Holy Fire to us now. Why I decided to just keep it, because I feel
the
like
way I kind of see it is keeping it the same would be because the holy fire that's been burning within the family keeps getting stronger, because it's like we keep the foundation of God within the family, within the marriage, and raising our kids in every situation, even when the times get easy, they get hard, they get scary, whatever it may be. We immediately seek God, and obviously we seek each other, to for advice or whatever it may be to help with each other. But the biggest overall common root foundation, it's been seeking after the Holy Spirit. So that the name still kind of makes sense to me.
yeah, so that actually makes a lot of that's actually one of the things I was thinking about, why it still fits, because I was giving it some thought and I'm like, okay, what does Holy Fire mean? Kind of separate from so fire itself, what does it mean, what does it represent, and then Holy Fire, what does that represent, right? So singling out fire as just a thing, right? What does it represent? But then also adding back the holy into the phrase, and what is Holy Fire biblically, and what does that represent to us? And I was thinking about it, and yeah, one of the very things is like you said, right? He is the core, the foundation of everything that we do. Even, I look back even on things where we weren't pursuing the Lord yet, early on in our marriage and stuff, and I see God's hand through it all, and one of the things I was thinking is the fire is the passion that we have.
Yeah.
Whether it's the love that we have for each other, or even the love that we have for our kids, it's the passion that is within this family. And then even I like the concept of when Moses and all the Israelites were basically done building the tabernacle, it was God who sent fire down and lit the altar, right, with his fire, with that holy fire. And it was the priest's job to never let the fire go out, to constantly let it burn and to fuel it and to make sure to take care of this fire 24/7. And that represents like what God has done in our life, that it is our job to continue to take care of everything he's given us, to take care of his presence, even, to host his presence in our personal life, in our marriage,
Yeah.
with our kids. And even when Aaron's two sons brought that strange fire, right? They brought fire from somewhere else that was not heaven sent fire. They got consumed in the fire. So that even represents the purity of our home, right? How we have to contain, or that we have to maintain the purity in our home. And I'm not saying this in a way to where we're perfect, but it's our goal, right? this
Yeah.
is this is one of the things that we need to keep at the forefront of our mind, that when we, whether it's daily like mundane stuff or just things about life or whatever it is, or even us ourselves, when we begin to maybe get complacent and start to think of bringing in so-called strange fire, we have to be wise enough to be like, no, that's not for us,
Yeah.
right? And that plays a role in a lot of different things, not just in like the family and in the sense of like, oh, we don't do worldly things, we only do godly things, but even like other stuff that is not necessarily spiritual, but it definitely plays into the role of our family, right? Like in this family, we don't, for example, right? In this family, we don't, what's the word? I was just thinking about it yesterday too. We don't insult each other, right? That's a big part of our marriage anyway. Like even when we've had crazy arguments, it's always been such an important thing that we do not insult each other. Like I've never called you any word, even back when we were in the world and we
Yeah.
would fight crazy fights and I would cuss like a sailor just because that's how I would speak. I
It was
never
never
direct
towards each other. We would
exactly.
never, out of anger, we would never call each other any type of words. Like, out of that anger, no matter how bad the fight may have gotten, we would cuss, but not aiming it towards the other.
Yeah, like there was a difference
There was a
between like,
line.
yeah, and even back then when, and that's what I mean that I was saying earlier, how like even looking back at those times, like God was still with us. Like I still see his hand over our life, even though we weren't walking with him yet. Because you see the things that he put in our hearts that it's like that doesn't come from the world. You
Hmm.
know, this like we would argue and we would get so mad in, especially like in the beginning, and there like we would cuss hardcore, but we would draw the line where it's like, for example, we would say things like I can't effing believe that you would do this or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Which was different to where like you're so effing stupid. You know what I mean? We would never speak in that way, even though we were angry and we were still fallen in sin and all of this, where we would cuss at each, not at each other, but in the conversation,
Hmm.
it was never directed at each other, right? We would never say, "Oh, you're a this or you're a that," or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had that boundary.
It was the boundary and the line of respect.
And coming to the Lord, it's only gotten stronger. That boundary has only gotten more pronounced, and we respect that boundary even more.
Yeah.
I feel like whereas before our marriage, I mean before our marriage, before we came to the Lord, we had that rule, I guess, where it's like we don't insult each other. But coming to the Lord, we grew in that place to where now it's not only we don't insult each other, but we honor each other a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just one aspect of like how there's that holy fire, that separation, that like we are different, we do this differently, you know and even how like we're in this for the long haul. Like that was the point of the holy fire on the altar. It was never supposed to go out. This isn't something that you light it, you use it, you let it go out, come back tomorrow, you light it again, let it go out. You know what I mean? It wasn't anything like, it was something that was like, you need to let this thing burn. And my grandma would even say things, like early on in our marriage, she would tell me, she would warn me about, hey, watch out for other women and this and that. I don't want you to get involved with some stupid things and end up, messing up your marriage. She would warn me about stuff like that. And one time she told me that, in Spanish, she was saying that don't like she was saying, like other attractions, like if there's another woman or whatever, that if if she begins to flirt with you or whatever, or if you start to feel feelings for another woman or whatever, like if those type of scenarios, right, like those type of like affairs, she says those type of things will, maybe they'll burn a big and hot flame, but there's no substance. She said it's like burning a whole stack of hay. Like it'll, well, not, I
It's
don't know
going to
what
be
it's like.
temporary.
Yeah, it's like a big flash and then it's gone. And she goes, and what did you do with this steady fire that you had? You left
That
it.
you've worked so hard on, that you've built up to make it something that started as a little flame, and you've worked for so many years on it to grow and grow and grow into this big flame. I can't
Yeah.
think of the right word. But then you look over to your right or to your left, you just look up from what your current situation is. You look up and see something that has the same type of flame, but it could be disguised as something that looks more enticing.
Hmm.
But you got to think about it. That flame is tiny still compared to what you worked so hard on.
Yeah.
And that's just temporary.
It's like the difference of making it, like having a fire with some like real logs versus a fire with just some straw.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the comparison she would give, and it's what's so funny that we're talking about this, because like looking back, you were the one that had all the experience with going camping and all that type of stuff. So when you and I started having like bonfires, like you're the one that actually taught me how to like kindle the fire and like keep
Keep it
it going.
alive.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, and you have to like take care of it and make sure it has oxygen and move it around and all of that. And I'm like, dude, and it's so funny that we're talking about this because that fits so well, because that's like the cultivating of the fire, the cultivating of this relationship, the working on it. This isn't some short thing, I mean, now we've been together for what, 14 years now, been married 10 years. Like this
Yep.
is not some quick little thing, this isn't something that we kind of just jumped into and, well, we'll see how it works. We'll just figure it out along the way.
Hmm.
Like this is something that we've put a lot of work in, and God's grace has been with us this whole time.
Yeah.
And that's just one aspect of like why I think I still want to keep this name. And
Yeah.
plus, there's still that history. Like, to be honest, one of the big reasons why I didn't want to leave this name is because I look back to when like the kids would like run in the room after we were done,
Yeah.
and they would pretend to have their own little videos and be like, "Welcome to Holy Kids Fire," or no, to Holy Fire Kids
Yeah.
today. And it's like, dude, like it brings back those memories of like the little kids just pretending to do what we do and all of that. And if anything, that even speaks even more into the whole fire thing, because the fire on the temple was supposed to be generational. Aaron was the first high priest, and then he taught his sons because they had to do it, and then they had to teach their sons. You know what I mean? Like it's a generational thing.
Hmm.
So even in that aspect, it fits. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of cool to just to keep this name, even though on the surface it might look like it doesn't make sense. But the more that I thought of it, it's like it fits so well with what we're doing, with what our life represents, and even the history that we've built. Even with the name itself, like I said, it brings back the memories of the beginning of our walk with the Lord, because
Hmm.
we started with that big flame of like, dude, we're just on fire. We just got to do this.
Yeah.
And though things got in the way of that, that's still part of the history of our walk with the Lord. And then the history of the kids playing around and talking about it, and even bringing it up, like, Dad, are you guys ever going to do Holy Fire again? Like those type of things. There's just so much to this name now that I just felt like I just couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's just a part of us. And even like the sign that you had made that we ordered,
Hmm.
I never got rid of it. I never gave up on it. Even I even had that one song named after that too. So it's just, there's just so much around it that has just become like, at least in my eyes, it's just become a big part of who we are, kind of like not like front and center, right? It's not like we're always talking about Holy Fire, but it's been a big part of our life, you know? And yeah, I just thought it's kind of cool to just start this new chapter of Holy Fire, where I just want it to be more kind of like this. Like we're just talking. And to be honest, I want this to be like something for us to be able to just talk and remember the things that God has done. Like that's a big thing that it's just important to me. I always go back to when the Israelites were going through the Jordan River about to go to the Battle of Jericho. And the Lord tells Joshua, hey, go tell the priests, go get the stones from the middle of the river and set up a monument. So when your children ask, hey, what is this? You will tell them what God did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing that I try to do. Always remember, go back and look at the things that God has done. Even reminiscing on the beginning of our relationship and all these type of things that we'll go into in more detail in further episodes. But that's the direction I want this to go, where we can look back and remember at the beauty of our whole life. Not that we're at the end of it, but you know what I mean? Like,
What it's led up to so far, and
yeah,
everything we have gone through so far, that's made us stronger every single day, literally.
yeah. Because, like, sometimes when life can get busy and we can keep going and all of this, sometimes we we focus so much on the details of the difficulties of the day. And if we just step back and just look at where we are and look at where we've come, not even in a bad way, because sometimes people say that, where it's like, look how far we've come, implying that like you started off really bad and now you're doing really good. But I mean, I think we're so blessed that we don't have that. Yeah, there have been times that have not been good, but I look back at the beginning of our relationship and I just see I just see God's grace all over it.
Yeah.
Even though there was a lot of fighting and arguments, there was still so much joy and happiness and love that we built together. And I've been talking about that lately, that we really grew up together. Getting together at 17, we had no driver's license. We had no jobs. We were still in high school. We had no idea what would come of our life, you know? I had no idea the work I would be doing. I had no like I we knew nothing,
Yeah.
Same thing with you, like everything that you've gone through. If you think about where you are now, how you've been a wife for 10 years, you've been a mom for 9 years, almost 10 years, you're about to have your fourth baby, you've figured out how to get your kids in homeschooling with good curriculums, not just winging it. All of these things that you've done and grown from the girl that I met in high school, like I've literally seen you grow into who you are now, and it's crazy because I remember when Abby was born, you had like no idea what to do and you were so scared and all of this, and just seeing how you just never gave up, and just seeing everything that you've accomplished, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, it's good. Like, this is the type of thing I'm talking about, that it's good to look back and remember and be happy about the things that God has pulled us through, you know? I don't know if you want to add something to that.
No, it's just kind of crazy to think about it sometimes. Just like how far we have come from it, like where it all started.
Yeah.
Like you said, we were only 17. We were kids. And it's just, I don't know. It's even crazier to think back, like how fast you knew you wanted to marry me, and how fast I knew I wanted to marry you too. That's just kind of crazy. Like, we were only 17, and we both knew at that age that we were who we wanted to spend the rest of our lives with, who we wanted to grow a life with, a family with, And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of crazy to think about it, like from an outer, like looking at the situation,
Like, looking back now that we're not in that situation.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just kind of crazy to think about it. It's like we were just kids,
Yeah. I know. Can I pause this thing? I don't think so, but I can always cut it out if I need to. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
¿Para qué le habla?
Yeah.
Ay, chamaco. ¿Van los niños?
No, los van a traer. What's up? And here we got little Sammy.
Sammy, say hi.
Say why?
Why?
But anyway, I think that's good for this one. You know, it's just a little intro, or I guess reintroduction.
Yeah.
And you know, we'll try to be consistent. And I think this is good for us too. You know, just to spend time together. You know, and do this. You know, I feel like it's not only good to share this with other people, but also good for me and you to have these conversations and spend this time intentionally.
Yeah.
But
Definitely
anyway.
agree.
Anyway, that's it for now. So we'll see you guys, or I guess we'll talk to you guys on the next one.
Yeah.